And good evening, everybody. This is Pucks from the Pine Tree Pod. My name is Benjamin Kennedy. Thank you so much for joining me again this evening. Tonight, we will be discussing the Los Angeles Kings. Third place finishers out in the Pacific last season. What does their 2024 2025 look like? We will discuss all of it. Before we do have some main Mariners news to talk about today. They do re sign forward Bennett Stockdale, a player who did play here a year ago, played 18 games for the Mariners, had 3 goals, 7 assists for 10 total points. He was a 3-year player at NCAA Division III SUNY Plattsburgh. He also played 15 games for University of Alabama Huntsville, not too far from where I went to college, back in 2020, 2021. Uh, College totals for him, he had a total of 94 games, 50 goals, 43 assists for 93 points. So just about a point per game player there in college. So welcome back, Bennett. Will be a lot of fun to watch you this season. I think there's probably an exciting time for him. I think there's definitely some growth to his game. I think this will just be his second um, pro season. I believe it'd be his first full pro season. So yeah, I think there's a lot of growth there. But I will be leaving the article on this signing down below from the marinersofmaine.com website. So we are going to get into the LA Kings and let's talk about their head coach. Now I'm going to talk more about coaching later because I have some very strong opinions on that whole situation there involving Tom McClellan. But entering this season, they do have Jim Hiller uh, as their full-time head coach. Of course, he was an interim last year after McClellan was fired. This is his first time as a full-time head coach in the NHL. 34 games last season, was had a 21-12-1 record for 632 winning percentage. He's been a longtime assistant coach with Detroit, with Toronto, with the Islanders, and of course with the Kings. And as we just said, he replaced McClellan about I think it was February 2nd last year when they fired Todd. Yeah, so I have some thoughts about that. We'll talk about it later. We'll see what Hiller can do. This is his first full off-season and preseason as an NHL head coach. We'll see how he gets the program moving. Salary cap space, they've got 2.91 million under the cap right now per Puckpedia, and they've got 22 or 23 of their roster spots filled. So, a little bit of cap space there. They could still go out and make a move. Yeah, JVR is still out there. I kind of wonder, about JVR. Would he be the kind of player that want to go play for a veteran club like the Kings? Don't know. For the first round of this year's draft, they do select forward Liam Greentree. They're in the first round for them. So, looking at their results from a year ago, they do finish off the season 44, 27, and 11, 99 points. Good for third in the division. Kind of the same spot they've been in now for the last few seasons. And guess what they do? They lose in the first round to the Edmonton Oilers, much like they have now for 3 seasons in a row. Man, for Kings fans, it's got to just feel like Groundhog Day. Like, we'll play anybody but the Oilers. Like, just stop, stop with this. It's got to be frustrating. I have no doubt. Uh, but again, good enough. Hiller does kind of get them going after what was a pretty bad slide there in December, January for the club. Not sure how much of that was Hiller or just a new voice. Um, but they do finish off again, get back to the playoffs in that third spot there in the Pacific. Now, looking at their team stats, they were overall, I think, pretty good across the board. They were plus 44 in the goals against area. They were 3.1 goals for, good for 16th in the league. 2.56 goals against, which was third in the league. So, defensively, they really played well. Power play, they were 12th in the league at a 22.6, and they were second in the penalty kill at 84.6%. So again, talking about their defensive depth from a year ago. Face-off circle, right around middle of the pack. They were at 50.6, which was good for 14th. They were 18th in block shots. They had just over 1,350 block shots, and then they were 22nd in hits at 1,763. Core skaters, guys, these are all really familiar names for any NHL fan out there. But of course, they've got Adrian Kempe, Played in 77 games a year ago, 28 goals, 47 assists for 75 points. Go down to Kopitar, played 81 games, had 26 goals, 44 assists for 70 points. Kevin Fiala played the full season, 82 games, 29 goals, 44 assists for 73 points. So pretty good consistency right there with those three guys. Drew Doughty, 82 games played for him, 15 goals, 35 assists for 50 points. So a decent season out of Doughty. They also have Quentin Byfield, young forward that they just did re-sign. He played in 80 games with 20 goals, 35 assists for 55 points. I just think he's an ascending star. I think he has a long runway in this league. And then Trevor Moore had a career year for himself last season, played all 82 games, 31 goals, 26 assists for 57 points. So excellent, excellent season and good production out of Moore. Goaltending going into the season, again, we're going to talk a little bit more about this too, but going to be tricky. Going to be tricky. Of course, they make the trade for PLD going to Washington. They get Darcy Kemper back in return, former Cup champion in Colorado, Darcy Kemper, but had a little bit of a rough time of it with the Capitals. Got into 33 games with a 13, 14, and 3 record, 3.31 goals against, just yucky, and an 890 save percentage. Does end up losing his job there to Lindgren. Um, was tough to watch. Was tough to watch. They do have David Riddick, kind of long time, kind of career backup, I'd say. David Riddick, 24 games played for him. He was 13, 6, and 3, had a 2.16 goals against and a 921 save percentage. So excellent year for him. Phoenix Copley, I do have him listed here too. Only played 8 games. Was a 4-1-2 record, 3.16 goals against, and an 870 save percentage. I imagine he'll be ticketed for the AHL. Um, a couple years ago, he played there a little bit, had a little bit of a run, but I do think he's down the depth chart. Key additions this year. They do bring in Kyle Burrows, defenseman. We already talked about Kemper. Tanner Jeannot comes over, forward. Defenseman Joel Edmondson, and then forward Warren Fogle comes over, of course, from the Edmonton Oilers. So kind of joining one of their arch nemesis there for him. I'd imagine Fogle will have a little bit nicer weather. I think about February in Edmonton or February in LA. Which one are you going to choose? I guess it depends on what kind of snowmobile you have, but uh, maybe the beach might be all right in February. I'm sure he and his family will enjoy that. Key departures. We have Carl Gunstrom, uh, Pierre Luc Dubois, of course, the trade with Washington. JJ Mosier, defenseman, uh, moving out the door as well. Matt Roy, defenseman, I think a big loss for them. He heads out to Washington. Victor Arvidsson, and then goalie Cam Talbot also on his way out the door, and then for Blake Lazat. So a handful of losses. I'll talk a little bit about Matt Roy here in a bit. But as I reviewed these offseason moves for the Kings, it really leaves me feeling less than thrilled. The PLD trade with Washington, or with Winnipeg, I should say, going back to last year, was just a real killer, and it just never worked. So I'm going to give Rob Blake some credit here for not doubling down on PLD and just getting him off the books and getting him out to Washington. But the net and what you gave up for PLD and what you got back in return from Washington is really tough to stomach if you're a Washington fan, or if you're a Kings fan, I should say. Sorry. I also believe that the loss of Matt Roy will be felt. He was just such a steady presence on that blue line for the team. Um, and I do just feel that Rob Blake is going to be under a ton of pressure, uh, this season, especially if this team gets off to a poor start. There's already a lot of fans just kind of shaking their heads and um, kind of wondering what kind of direction, is this roster going in. I do feel like for this team to get back to the playoffs, it's going to come on the backs of the leaders in Kopitar and Kempe and this forward group. I do like the group overall. Uh, they're the scoring group, and I think they have, like I said, a rising star in Quentin Byfield. I wouldn't be shocked if he's a 30-goal guy this year. I just wouldn't shock me at all. Trevor Moore, again, coming off a career year, can he any place come close to repeating that? I think that could really go a long way for this club as well. But I do think offensively they should have enough in the tank to be competitive. When you look at some of those defensive numbers from last year, you think, good, strong defensive team. I do think they're going to miss Matt Roy. I think, again, he was a real steady presence for them, has a little bit of offense in his game, was just kind of a steady Eddie back there. But they still have the likes of Mikey Anderson, Vlad Garikov, um, along with Joel Edmondson that comes over, and of course Drew Doughty. That's a longtime player there for them. And they also have the 2021 first round draft pick in Brant Clark, who did play 16 games last season. And I think he's going to have a strong chance to make the club. We'll see what he can do. Obviously, very high draft pick for them there a couple years back. So that will be interesting, I think, to watch. So I think their defense is fine. I do wonder organizationally, how deep are they? How are they going to be able to sustain any sort of injuries that naturally come up in the season? I think that'll be another question mark for the group. Um, we'll see. I really don't know what the plan is in net this year, but I'm not excited at all about where they sit today, guys. I'm just not. Of course, we had Kemper that comes over from the PLD trade. You lose Talbot, he's out the door. And yes, Kemper, he's a former Cup champion. We know that, but he had just such an awful time of it in Washington. He eventually lost that job, like we said, to Lindgren, and it just never looked good, never looked comfortable. For this team to have any real chance, Kemper needs to have a big bounce back effort this year. Reddick's numbers were excellent this year, had a great year, but the Kings will need to be really careful not to overplay him. He's not someone you can roll out there 40 or 45 games in the season. He's fine as a backup, but this is where you really need Darcy Kemper to be that guy, that same guy that he was in Colorado. I think to really have a chance at a long playoff run. Let's talk about Tom McClellan, shall we? I may have an opinion or two on this. Firing him during last year, I think, may be the single worst move that Blake has made in his time as a general manager. Now, I'd be really curious to hear from Kings fans to see what they think about that. Um, are there other moves that you really haven't liked from him? Leave those comments down below. And yes, I know, guys, that the team was 3-8-6 from December 28th to January 31st. So I guess from a numbers perspective, I understand why they make the move. It was a bad stretch, plenty of overtime losses, but six overtime losses. I think three of them were in a shootout. If you flip three of those OTLs to wins, do you think he still gets fired? You know, Here's a coach that's only missed the playoffs 5 times in the 16 years of experience he has. Five. That's it. Yes, yeah, two of those seasons of the 16 where he was fired halfway through the season, but he makes the playoffs a lot. And he also won a Calder Cup back in the AHL in 2002, 2003 in Houston. I know that Kings fans are going to say, yeah, but, yeah, but, yeah, but, yeah, but, Ben, he couldn't get us over the hump in the playoffs. Okay, fine. How did it work out for Jim Hiller this year? Let me tell you how it worked out. Same exact results. You lose to Edmonton in the first round. I just think it was a bad move. And no disrespect intended for Hiller. And I'm not cheering against you guys here, but I just don't think the Kings are strong on that bench today as they were a year ago at this time. McClellan, in my opinion, should be one of the first coaches hired as jobs come up, and we all know they will. There's just no patience in this league anymore. I do find it quite ridiculous. So, as for their chances in the playoffs this season, listen, I think their forward group is fine. I think they're going to score. I think their defensive units are good enough if they can stay relatively healthy. It all comes back to goaltending. Can Kemper bounce back? Can he find that same game that he had in Colorado, or are the Kings going to have to outscore their problems in that? I don't think they finish any higher than third in the Pacific Division. And depending on what Seattle and Vegas do, they might find themselves in a wild card battle. We shall see. So I didn't really have a great Lord of the Rings sticker for this one. So I have the what about second breakfast sticker up there. Really just saying, second breakfast, they you know, every single year, it seems like they get the same thing here, right? Their first round exit to Edmonton. Um, you need second breakfast. You need a little bit more, I think, to get you going and get over that hump. Um, I think the Pacific's going to be really interesting this year, guys. I just do. You know, I'll be curious to look at the Vancouver preview that I'll do here in a little while. Uh, them coming off a really great year, can they do it again? How does Edmonton bounce back from losing in that Stanley Cup final? You know, Seattle made some moves this year. Are they going to ascend? What about Vegas? Vegas just got torched on July 1st, absolutely torched. Do they make the playoffs this year? Are they susceptible to missing out? You know, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Unfortunately for us East Coast people, a lot of 10:30 starts, 11 o'clock starts for a lot of those West Coast games, but should be a really fun and interesting division to follow. So that's what we have for your LA Kings tonight. Just a reminder, tomorrow we do have Dr. Kristen Moody coming on. We're going to talk about all those health and safety tips. Anybody that has any questions that they would like me to ask her, we'd be happy to do a Q&A session. So you know, especially if you have, you know, any high school kids, you know, getting ready for fall sports or any children that are dealing with any kind of sports related injuries, feel free to leave those comments down below, those questions down below. You can email me directly as well. You can find my email on my YouTube channel page. Um, and yeah, we'd be happy to, I'm sure, explore those questions with everybody. So, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Do appreciate all the love and support. Last note I'll make is that we are getting very close to launching um, our new podcast over with Black and Gold Productions. That's going to be specifically designed for the Maine Mariners for news. I'll be doing at least a weekly video, kind of weekly wrap up during the season over there. It's going to be called Mariners Hockey Report. So more to come there. I'll be doing an introductory video over there here in the near future. So really excited about that venture and excited about everything we have going on at Black and Gold Productions. We just need the puck to drop. Let's go. Come on, it's August 1st. Let's get through this. You know, let's get to October. We're ready for it. Anyway, guys, again, thank you so much for watching. If you do like what you hear, what you see here, um, please give us a like, give us a follow, give us a subscribe down below. And until next time, be kind, show love, and God bless.